It was recorded.
We'll let them come in. We got two more people, then we'll get started.
Come over there.
We got one person signing in, but I'm Victoria Wright, and I'm the Marketing and Outreach Coordinator for Department of Procurement Service. Again, thank you for coming out in the snow. Hopefully when you get out of here, we won't be snowed in. So this is how to become certified. Is everybody here for the correct workshop? Okay, so you should have signed in and taken the handouts. Out on the table is a packet. There's the actual Schedule A application, the help text, and the document checklist. So everything was all grouped together. So you should have got 3 pieces of information. And then there's a DPS alert card. We definitely recommend that everybody sign up for DPS alerts. So we send out a bid opportunity list every Monday, and it actually has the bids that are actually on the street and are available to bid on. And if you like, you can take a buy-in plan. That's a 12-month forecast of all the bids that have come out for the city of Chicago. And then in that book, we also have our sister agencies as well. So it's a consolidated book of everything that will come out in the next 12 months. There's also an evaluation out there. I asked, and I will collect that at the end, so I ask that you, if you're not staying for doing business with the city of Chicago, I'd ask that you fill it out at the end of this workshop. If you're staying for the second half, you can just fill it out at the end of the second workshop. And then we also have the assist agency list on the table. Ian was going to talk about the assist agencies and how they do help vendors with their certification applications. Okay, so I do have, if this is your first time here, I need to let you know that our workshops are being live streamed to YouTube. So that was why I had to go back there to make sure that camera was actually on. But the camera's only facing the speaker. It's not on the audience. And for that reason, we're going to ask that you try to hold all the questions until the end. And then whatever question you have, Ian will repeat the question so that people at home can actually hear your question and then he'll answer the question. Okay, so we're trying to start on time and end on time. If we go all the way up to 3 o'clock, we will stay in the room to answer your questions if there are any questions that go past 3 o'clock. It's okay if we end a little earlier, but we try not to go past 3 because we have to start the second workshop promptly at 3:15. So can you sign in and take the handouts? Okay, so I am going to turn it over to Ieno. He is the actual certification officer, and he's going to be handling the workshop today. And I'll be back at the end to make sure I collect everybody's evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Ayeno Biru, and I'm a certification officer at DPS, Department of Procurement Services. So before we kind of start with the slides, I just want a very quick overview of what we're going to cover. I'm going to talk very quickly about what DPS, or Department of Procurement Services, what exactly it is that we do. We'll talk about the benefits of certification. We'll talk about the qualifications or the eligibility requirements. I'll talk about the application process itself, including what kind of documents it is that we're going to be requesting. Then finally, we'll talk about some of the most common mistakes or some of the most common reasons the applications are actually rejected. And then afterwards, we have time for all your questions. So very quickly, DPS is the contracting authority for the procurement of goods and services. We work together as a team and with our customers to guarantee an open, fair, and timely process by establishing, communicating, and enforcing superior business practices. Excuse me. And essentially, what we do is we commit to providing information, resources, and tools to help you as business owners in your efforts to kind of compete and hopefully to gain contracting opportunities with the city. Our department, the certification department specifically, we are the ones who are going to accept all of your applications. We process the applications, approval and denial. We do the recertification. So once you're certified, typically it's good for 5 years, and then after 5 years, you need to go through the recertification process. We also process the no change affidavits, which are every year you have to file an application, which is a very short application, essentially informing us of whether or not there have been changes in the company that might change your eligibility into the program. So within our department, we have certification, and then there's compliance. So we deal specifically with certification. The compliance deals with ensuring that the companies who actually have the contracts are in compliance with the different DPS rules. We also set standards for contract participation for MBEs and WBEs, DBEs and ACDBEs. Essentially what this means is that all contracts that are given out by the city, or most of them, have participation requirements. Between 25 and 30% of those contracts have to be subcontracted out to MBEs, WBEs, and DBEs. We also assist vendors through our website at cityofchicago.org/procurement and chicago.mwdbe.com. So we have 5 certification programs, and bear with me, I'm used to saying MBE, so MBE is a minority business-owned enterprise, WBE is a woman-owned business enterprise, BEPD, or businesses owned by people with disabilities, DBE is a disadvantaged business enterprise, and ACDBE is an airport concessions disadvantaged business enterprise. So some of the benefits of the certification, I mean, there's, the list really goes a lot longer than this. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them, you guys are aware of the benefits, which is why you guys are here. One of the main ones is that it provides visibility. So after you're certified, your company, including the kind of goods and services that you're being certified for, get placed in our MBE, WBE directory, and that's on the City of Chicago website. And so, firms who are looking for MBE and WBE certification, certified firms for their contracts, go onto that directory and they're able to find you guys. So it's a very good kind of promotional aspect to the certification. As I said before, there are minority, women, and disadvantaged business person goals on our City of Chicago projects, as well as the projects that are offered by our sister agencies. And also, certification also goes beyond just city or government contracts. As you guys know, a lot of private companies also have supplier diversity programs. And so, we have a lot of firms who are certified not necessarily because they're interested in working with the city, but because they work with private sector companies that have supplier diversity programs. Secondly, with the City of Chicago, we have a target market program which provides exclusive bidding to certified minority. A target market program which provides exclusive bidding to certified minority and women-owned business enterprises. This allows certified businesses to take 100% of the pie, as there are no subcontractor requirements. So, and typically these are contracts that are below, I think they're $250,000. So there are a lot of small bid projects that are only available to companies that are certified. So we can talk about the eligibility requirements. So, there are qualifying groups: African American, Hispanic, Asian American, Native American, women, people with disabilities, and other individuals who are able to prove social and economic disadvantage. One of the main qualification or eligibility requirements is that you have to be a local business. And local business is defined as a business whose principal place of business and majority of full-time workers are located in the 6-county region. So Cook County, DuPage, Kane, Lake, McHenry, or Will. For DBE and ACDBEs, Because those are federally mandated or federally governed programs, there isn't a requirement that you're within the city of Chicago. Also, you have to be 51% owned by and controlled and managed by the minority woman or the person with a disability or the person who's able to prove that they've been socially or economically disadvantaged. There are also size requirements. So the company, for MBEs and WBEs, your gross receipts cannot average more than 37.3 million over the last 3 years. If it's a construction firm, then the average is over the past 5 years. For DBE, you cannot exceed 22.4 million or the SBA size limit for the good or the services that you are hoping to be certified in. For ACDBEs, you cannot exceed 52.47 million for most firms, but there are exceptions, which most people, these are for companies that provide financial services or car rental companies. Their size limit is a lot higher. So we have I think everybody here has the Schedule A, the hard copy. So this is more for informational purposes because as of January 1st of this year, actually all applications have to be submitted online. So, I mean, it's good in the sense that it'll give you a sense of what you're going to be needing to submit, but we are no longer accepting hard copy applications. There is a fee of $250, which needs to be in money order or certified check. There's no fee for any of the DBE, ACDBE programs, or for BEPD. And finally, obviously, you're going to have to submit all of the different required documents. So this is kind of just an overview of some of the documents that we're going to be requesting. We're going to need contact information, the type of certification that you're actually requesting, the ownership information, so who's the owner and what percentage does that owner actually own, how many owners there are there, employee information, facility information, where the place of business is actually done, if there are multiple locations, for instance. Financial information, this will be tax returns, financials, loan documents, etc. Any licenses that are relevant to that kind of work. We will also, ask that you kind of demonstrate the experience that you have. So we do require a resume, evidence of any kind of professional associations. We will also ask for a listing or an inventory of any kind of equipment that you have. The leases, as we said before, for all of your locations. We will ask for any evidence of contracts. If you've already performed this kind of work in the past, we would like to see the signed contracts, invoices, purchase orders. This next section, because it's important what kind of business and how the business is formed, because that's going to kind of inform as to what kind of documents we're going to be requesting. So, if you're a sole proprietor, company that's owned by one person, has no legal existence apart from that person, then we'll request the assumed name certificate. If it's a general partnership where 2 or more people go into business without any kind of formality, we would request a partnership agreement. If it's a limited partnership, where it's more like you're a stakeholder in a corporation. You may not be liable for the debts beyond their own contribution. We request the same kind of a certificate of a limited partnership or an assumed name certificate. If you're incorporated, corporation's treated as an entity completely separate from its shareholders. We would look for the articles of incorporation, certificate of incorporation, the bylaws, meeting minutes, stock certificates. And it is actually it's very important that the company, if you are incorporated, that you're always in good standing, because the regulations actually require that if you're not in good standing with the state, it doesn't matter what it's for, you can actually be decertified. So, and lastly, if you're an LLC, we would require the operating agreement. This is an issue that we have that comes up every once in a while. If your company is if you're a supplier, our definition of a supplier has to be a regular dealer, which is a firm that owns, operates, or maintains a store, warehouse, or other establishment in which materials, supplies, articles, or equipment are bought, kept in stock, and regularly sold or leased to the public in the usual course of business. For distributors, these are firms operating as a distributor are identified as having a direct relationship with a manufacturer to distribute its goods and products within a specified territory or region. The goods or products are not necessarily available to the general public. Now, suppliers and distributors, you can be certified. There's no problem with that. But where we run into an issue is with brokers. Firms acting as brokers are not eligible for certification as an MBE or WBE. And a broker is a person or entity that fills orders by purchasing or receiving supplies from a third-party supplier rather than out of its own existing inventory, and provides no substantial service other than acting as a conduit between his or her supplier and his or her broker or his or her customer. And so if you are a supplier or a distributor, one of the things we ask is, you make sure that you're able to kind of show that you have a relationship if you're a distributor with a manufacturer, or if you're claiming to be a supplier, that this is something that you're constantly selling from your own inventory, as opposed to just, buying from A, you just packing it up and, drop shipping it or shipping it directly to the customer. So once the applications are submitted, typically the process can take from 60 to 90 days from the day that we receive all the documents. And so if we receive an application that's kind of incomplete, that's going to make that timetable obviously extend. Once you actually submit it and we receive it, there's an intake process. We make sure that all the documents that you say you've submitted are actually there. We look over and go through our process, looking at all the financial information, all the corporate information, everything that you've submitted. We go through. For most new certifications, we will have a site visit. If it's a construction company, a site visit is required, or if you're a supplier or distributor. But it's not a guarantee. You may or may not receive a site visit. And then once you're certified, your certification is valid for 5 years. So there are, we call them expedited process. If you are already certified with the Women's Business Development Center, for instance, or the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council, since you've already kind of gone through a certification process, there is an expedited application where essentially we receive your application and kind of, give the benefit of the doubt or take for granted that everything that you've kind of submitted, that you're already, an MBE or a WBE. And so it's considered an expedited process, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to ask for additional information if there's something in the application that needs to be clarified. Now, once you've been certified, I talked a little bit about the no change affidavits before. This is, an annual thing. You'll receive an alert through the system 60 days prior to when it's due. And all vendors, you have to submit a no change. If you don't submit no changes, then technically your certification can lapse. And after the 5 years, all vendors have to recertify and go through the certification process as if you were a new company. Now, we do have a lot of firms that want to expand their certification. You may have been certified originally in one kind of service or trade, and then later on, because you've picked up new employees or you picked up new experience, you can expand the certification. You must submit this request on company letterhead, and then you'll receive from us a kind of checklist of new documents that we're going to request to ensure that all these new services or that you're trying to be certified in, that you're actually able to provide those services. And so aside from licenses, we're going to ask for contracts in which you've performed the service that you want to be certified in, insurance certificates, and it's incumbent on you to let us know what the codes, the NAICS codes that you're trying to expand your certification into. These are the contact. So all these different agencies, they have their own procurement office, and so if you're looking to try to find opportunities to do business with these agencies, CPS, Cook County, Chicago Park District, CHA, you are able to contact these people directly. So we'll talk really briefly about some of the most common reasons that applications are denied. And these aren't in any kind of particular order. The first one is unsubstantiated or questionable ownership and control. As we said before, if you want to be certified as an MBE or WBE, 51% ownership has to be in that, has to be owned and controlled by that person. And so sometimes we have applications where it's not really clear who owns the majority of the company, or there may be multiple owners. And if that's not clear, then we can't give the company certification if we don't know that a minority or a woman or a disadvantaged person is actually owning the company. Unclear description of critical functions and who is responsible. So this kind of goes to the experience and the resume issue that we were talking about before. You have to be able to show that you're actually able to do the things that you are wanting to be certified in. And so if you have a situation where it looks like there's an employee who may not necessarily be able to be certified, who is providing most of the really important critical functions, then we have an issue, and you may be denied based on that. The company can't substantiate where the startup funds and expansion capital came from. So we do request that you show us where you got the money to originally start the firm. For most people, this is just a matter of showing a bank deposit in the new account. But in instances where you may have a construction company, for instance, and if you're claiming that you have 20 pieces of machinery, but we don't know where that came from, that can cause issues of dependence and control later on. And so we like to know where that came from. Outside or secondary employment takes the majority of the enterprise's time each day. So, the regulations state that for the most part, this has to be your kind of primary form of employment to be certified. I can't get certified. I can't get a company certified if it's just something that I commit 5 hours a week to. This has to be something a lot more substantial. The company is not located in one of the 6 county regions. This happens a lot, actually. So if you're not from Cook, DuPage, Will, Lake, Kane, or McHenry counties, you can't be certified. The point of contact did not respond to requests. So this is actually probably the most common reason why applications get denied, which is just very simply not responding to our request for information in time. And one of the things that I like to stress to people is that, everybody knows that, you guys are business owners, and so it's not like you can just drop everything and respond to every request. If you keep in constant contact with the certification officer who's, handling your application, it's not a big deal for us to give you extensions of time to, supply information, but we just need to know. If you kind of keep us up to date on those kind of, and let us know that, it may not necessarily come tomorrow, but that it's going to be there in a week, then you're not going to run into the problem of getting your application denied due to non-responsiveness, which happens a lot. Inconsistencies with the applicant firm name among various documents. I've seen this happen more so where you may have multiple companies operating under one holding group, and if we get 3 different names on every different document, then it can kind of cause this confusion as to who is actually controlling the company. Problems with contracts. So if you supply a contract to us, make sure that it's signed. We sometimes run into situations where contracts aren't signed by the person who is claiming to be in control of the company, and so that can be an issue. Or if there is no corresponding proof of payment. Required documents aren't attached, or no explanation is given as to why the documents are available. One of the things I like to tell people is that not every question is going to necessarily apply to your company. And so if we ask a question or request a document that doesn't apply to your company, then the best thing, rather than leaving it blank, send us a statement, upload a document that states, I don't have 5 years of taxes because the company's only been in existence for 2 years, or I don't have an inventory of equipment because you may just be a consulting company that you work with a laptop, that's it. And so anytime where we see a document not being attached to the application, it's better to have an explanation as to why it's not there. Or 3 years of tax returns are not submitted as required. So this goes to, anytime all tax returns that you submit need to be signed. If we're talking about corporate taxes, if you don't have the 3 or the 5 years because the company hasn't been in existence, then, just simply explain that to us. Where to go? We are on the 8th floor, City Hall. We are always able to take walk-ins. It's not a problem. And there is a sheet out there that has a list of the assist agencies that Victoria talked about earlier. And these are different, contractor organizations, other chambers of commerce, etc., that can also help you with certification-related issues. I think that's done. We can take questions.
Well, I wanted to, because
Sure.
we finished so quickly,
Oh,
I want to
yeah. Oh,
go
good.
over a few things that,
Sure.
that we might not have touched on. I even can stay up here, but first of all, I wanted to let you all know that the PowerPoint can be found on our website at cityofchicago.org/DPS. And then if you go up under events, all of the, there's a link to all the PowerPoints. So any workshop that we have here, you can get the PowerPoint online. www.cityofchicago.org/DPS. And then once you get to DPS, if you go down, I think it's under what we do, it should be events. And then there's a link that will take you to the PowerPoint slides for all of our workshops. So specifically if you want this one, but all of our PowerPoints can be found there. So one thing I want to go over is there is a separate workshop for DBE and ACDBE that gives more detail about DBE. DBE is federally funded contracts, where MBE, WBE is usually a city-funded contract. If you want to do work at the airport, you usually need to have a DBE or ACDBE certification. Now, Department of Aviation has networking events specifically for what they're going to be contracting for at the airport. So if you are interested in DBE, I always tell people to try to stay on top of what's going on at aviation. They have their own website called flychicago.com, and they have a lot of events. I think they just had one like 2 weeks ago. They usually have them at UIC Forum, and then they have it so that you can actually meet with their primes. So it's a good time for subs to talk directly to the primes about DBE jobs that are going on out there. So like Ieno said, you can get DBE certified through us. So, and that one is free. But if you want to do work at the airport, you have to have the DBE or the ACDBE. ACDBE is if you want to be a concessionaire, if you want to have a store or something out at the airport, you need the ACDBE. Okay. And we do have a workshop, like I said, if you want to learn about DBE separately from MBE and WBE. I always tell people, don't stop with the city of Chicago when it comes to getting your certification or trying to find contracts. There was a list up there of all the other sister agencies, but they have their own procurement process. So make sure you go to their website to find out what they do for procurement. Like we have DPS alerts, all of those agencies usually have some kind of alert so that you can stay on top of what contracts are coming out for them as well. So don't just look for contracts with the city. You need to find Chicago Park District, Chicago Public Schools, CTA. Sometimes people get confused and think those are city contracts. Those are not. They have their own contracting process. So one tip that I tell people is just like you can do cityofchicago.org/DPS. For all those agencies, if you do a /procurement, it'll usually take you to their procurement page. Okay, so you can do a search that way. The list for those sisters agencies are 2 places. You can either find it on our website, the one I just gave you, cityofchicago.org. It's on the right-hand side, and you can just click right on it, and instead of having to type it in. So if you go to our website, you can go to the right-hand side of the page, and all those sister agencies take you straight there. Or you can go get the PowerPoint, and then you'll have the phone numbers and everything.
I think it's in the buying plan also.
Yeah, it's in the buying plan. The buying plans are out there. Yes.
If someone's already certified, does we apply for city contracts as well, and that would count, or we have to be at the WBE in order for ours?
So each contract will tell you what type of sub they're looking for, if they're looking for M, W, or D. So it depends on what you're trying to bid on. So usually if it's a city contract, it's going to tell you what the percentage is going to go towards M or W or D. But usually, like I said, if it's a federally funded contract, it's probably looking for a D. But if it's looking for an M and you have the D, you can't use the D when they're looking for an M. You know what I mean? And the other thing is Cook County, we're now doing reciprocal certification with Cook County, which means you don't have to get certified with us and then get certified with the county. The county will accept our certification, and we will accept the county certification. And the rules are pretty much the same for both of us. So if you decide not to come to the city to get yours and you decide to go to the county, their letter can be used on city contracts. Okay, so it used to be separate. You used to have to pay $250 here, pay $200 there. Now you don't. It's the same $250 whether you get it here or there. Okay. I always tell people when I do this class for certification, if you're a new company, that's the best time to get certified, because you are not bogged down. You're still happy. You're still excited. So try to do your certification early, because the most important thing is to keep up with your documents. So every year you need to be filing your documents away, so when it's time for you to do the certification or get recertified, you're not searching for documents. And now even more important, because we're not taking hard copy applications, is you might want to just go ahead and scan them, and that's really better for you so that you can keep up with your documents. Scan them, put them on a flash drive, because that is, that's usually the people's most difficult task when they try to do certification, is trying to find all the documents. So especially if you're a new company, just try to keep up with everything, file it away or scan it. Try to keep up with your documents. And like Ieno said, if you don't have something, make sure you send something on your letterhead or in writing saying, I don't have it because you don't want us to guess why you didn't turn it in. But I tell people all the time, you might turn in an application that you think is 100%, that you answered all the questions. Trust me, you are still gonna get a call from a certification officer saying, I need you to submit something. And you might be like, well, I turned that in already. Just turn it in, because you're just wasting time. If you want to argue and say, I turned that in, just whatever they asked you for, turn it in, because that certification officer is going to help you through the process anyway. So, you know, you might think you turned in the most perfect application there is. Somebody's going to call you. And like you said, your turnaround time might be 10 days and then 15 days. But if you need more time, just make a call and tell us that you need more time.
Are we allowed to talk to the officer before we submit it? Or is it?
Can she talk to you before she submits it?
No, of course. I mean, we are, you know, the only thing that we will not get into is we don't want to get into an issue where it looks or sounds like we're helping you or consulting, you know, on the application itself. But I mean, we're always here. You are always available. You know, we're always available to kind of answer any questions. And if we're not able to answer it for one reason or another, you know, we will let you know. Yeah.
Another thing with the 51% ownership, I always tell people they want to turn in an application saying they're 50-50. That doesn't work in certification. Somebody has to be 51. So if you're a husband and wife, it might be good to be 50-50 in your marriage, but it's not 50-50% in your certification. Somebody has to have 51%. So if you're trying to get the W and you're a husband and wife, that means the wife has to have a 51 if you want to be WBE. Okay, and then another thing is, I always tell people, if you have a trucking company and it's a woman, but the woman can't drive the truck, that's probably going to be a red flag. It's going to be questionable, because if the man drops dead, or God forbid, you're divorced, any of that, and then the woman can't drive a truck or she can't run the company because she knows nothing about trucking, that's going to get questioned. Okay, so make sure that if it's two people, that both people can run that company, even if something happened to the second person. Okay. And another thing with contracts, like you said, you have to turn in contracts. You have to be able to show your story, tell your story. So if you were a painter, you were a painter for somebody else, but you decided you want to start your own painting company, your resume is your story. So your resume should show that you were a painter for 10 years. Who did you do painting for? What were you doing? And an example for contracts, I always tell people, if you paint your mother's house or you paint your mother's kitchen, that's a contract. You know, put it in writing, because that's you showing that you're a professional. You might not take the money from your mother, but it should still have to put it in writing, saying that you charged your mother $100 to paint her kitchen. She signed it, you signed it, that's a contract. Even though it's not like a big city contract, it's still a contract. So if you're doing stuff for friends or whatever, because you're trying to build your business, make sure you put it in writing. It's a contract. So that's how you show that you are a professional. Your resume, they're going to look at what is your story, why do you think you can do these things. The same with if you decide to get certified and you want to add NAICS codes. And that's another thing. We don't pick your NAICS codes. You have to pick your NAICS codes. Basically, it's what are your commodity codes? What do you do? But if you want to add codes later, you can do that, but you have to show that you can add on. So if you're a painter, but then you want to start doing drywall, or if you want to start doing floors, you have to tell us why you think you should be able to add painting or drywall or laying tile. You have to show where you are capable of doing those things, and then you submit those things on your letterhead requesting to add those NAICS codes to your certification. Questions?
Actually, I got several.
Several.
If I may.
Yeah.
to you exactly what's going on?
Yeah. So, essentially, exactly like what what you just said is, you're very similar to a startup, and so again, just reiterating exactly what I said. If you don't have something because it simply doesn't exist, we can't request something that doesn't exist. But we need to know why it doesn't exist. And in contracting or construction, we'll still need evidence that you have kind of the capability to run a construction company. But beyond that, if it's for document requests, if it doesn't exist because for the reasons that you stated, just simply explain that on letterhead, and that's as far as the inquiry on that issue will go.
One more question. My official name is Jose Ivan Catan, but since I came to the States 35 years ago, I've been going by my middle name, Ivan.
Okay.
When I opened the company, the owner of the company name is Ivan, not Jose Ivan.
Nice.
But when you see my license and my passport, you're going to see that it says Jose Ivan. Is that going to be a problem?
I mean, I think you should be able to change, with the Secretary of State, you should be able to change the name on the company to whatever it is on your license, correct? I mean,
No, okay, well, that's what
Okay.
So do you recommend that I change the company name owner as
to what it is on your ID. That's what,
That's what I wanted to do.
Okay. Is anybody? Go ahead.
I had a question. You mentioned earlier about the Women's Business Development Center, that if you already have gotten that certification,
Yes.
going through the process now.
Okay.
And you said that the process to have this WBE will be expedited. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, it's called an expedited process in the sense that you're not having to resubmit the same information that you have already presumably submitted to the WBC, or if it was the Minority Supplier Development Council. But I mean, we still will look at the application to make sure that you are eligible based on all the other parameters, the resume, the experience, etc.
Okay, so that I would still fill out the application on the wrong side. That's what you said.
Yes.
So she's asking about if she goes through the Women in Business Development Center for the certification, what happens when she submits the application with DPS? Have you already started the process with the Women in Business Development
Yes.
Center?
But I haven't submitted it yet. I'm almost done with my paperwork in. So
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out right now, because I'm here, I'm thinking, what's the best certification for me? Because there's so many.
Well, now this is what I always tell people. You can go through the Women in Business Development Center, you can go through the Minority Supplier Diversity. They're going to charge you.
Right.
Did you already sign up for them to charge you?
No.
Okay, so I don't recommend paying somebody to do your certification. That's just,
I'm doing it myself.
okay, but I know they charge.
They have like fees for like certain classes.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
and-
So
yeah.
there are agencies, the Assist Agency, which is listed out there, some of them want you to become a member. But once you become a member, they'll help you for free. They're helping you, that's all, which they're gonna check your documents for you before you send them here, which their membership might be $30 for a year or $100 for a year, where if you go through the Women Business Development Center or the Minority Council or a lawyer or accountant, you're getting up there with like $1,000 sometimes for them to go through. Yeah, depending on who you go to. I don't recommend paying somebody else and then paying us $250. You can get all the help from coming to these classes. You can go to an assist agency. There are basically chambers of commerce in everybody's neighborhood. So yes, they might want you to become a member, but it's a lot cheaper than paying $600 to have somebody look at your paperwork. I recommend trying to come through us. I definitely like the Women in Business Development Center for women and men. They have great classes, they have great support systems for small businesses, but I just don't believe in paying two people for certification. If you go on there for small business assistance, great, but not to pay them to do your certification and then have to come back over here and pay us $250 as well.
Okay, so that certification for the Midwest is $350 just to pay them submitting the certification.
Well, see, that's their certification.
Okay.
That certification is not good. You cannot use that certification to do city contracts.
Okay.
So if you get that, I mean, I'm sure it has some benefits, but you cannot use it for city or county contracts. That's all, that's what you just need to know.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. Sorry.
I have a question.
Sure.
You asked about the evidence of contracts.
Mhm.
My colleague and I, we're 50-50, but we're both on that, we're both professional geologists. So how many contracts, why do we have to go back 10, 20, 30 years?
When I'm looking at a application, I mean, I typically will ask for 5 contracts.
Right.
Yeah. And something relatively recent.
Okay.
I'm not really as concerned with something that you may have done 15, 20 years ago. Yeah, I mean, there's no hard and fast rule. Just ask for the 5 biggest contracts in the last 3 years, for instance. So.
If we don't have any, we just.
Yeah, of course. If you don't have any because you haven't done any contracts, then yeah.
But it's
Hold on,
in
I'm
the,
sorry.
or you would prefer to see the sister agency of CHA contracts?
If you have them, that would be great.
Yeah, we do. But we also have more private contracts, so.
It's as long as the contracts are in the scope of the work that you're wanting to be certified in. One contract is not necessarily better than the other. Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be focused just on Chicago.
No.
And then you also said that you have to be in good standing.
Mhm.
And I know you can pay $35 to get the certificate.
Yeah.
because you're in good standing. But is there a time, does it have to be within 90 days and then you have to apply? Because I've done that in the past for city contracts.
Mhm.
And the certificate, but I'm just wondering if
I
there's a
mean,
time element.
it's really just when we check. I don't check every single. We're not going to check every day. And
I
mhm.
that was part of your requirements,
Mhm.
but I don't know if it's still going to be valid.
No, typically those are. It's good for. Usually, it's an annual thing, depending on how the company is formed. I mean, different business formations have different reporting requirements. So, for an LLC, I think you have to. It's annual, et cetera. So it's really, once you've done it, you're presumably good for until the next year. Yeah.
You said someone has to be 51%. And if we're 50-50,
In your case, it doesn't matter because if it's a WBE. Yeah. Sure.
Well, I think she had
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I have a trucking firm, and I have not had, usually we go through a broker. That's why I'm trying to get a certification so I could essentially go directly to the prime. So I don't have a direct contract. Do I just put the projects that I worked on, and that's a contract? But it's not directly with the prime. It's usually the prime, a sub, and then a sub to it.
Yeah, but I mean, there would be other documentation that would show the kind of work. I mean, you have like the tickets, don't you have like
Yeah.
pickup tickets and things like that? The proof of your payment, for instance, or you may want to request that contract from whoever it is that is actually giving the job to you. At least something that shows that XYZ company that's trying to be certified is involved in this project.
Sometimes we have broker packages, which is, usually it's how I said the prime,
Mhm.
and then a sub,
Yeah.
and then the sub, again, I sub to a sub, they call, they're called broker packages.
The thing is, there's never an instance where we're going to say, no, you're showing us too much evidence. I mean, as much paperwork, or evidence that you can show to us, feel free to send it in, because, there's never kind of a perfect situation, so if there are situations where because you're working through intermediaries, you may not necessarily have the contract directly with the prime, then any kind of evidence to show that is going to, give the certification officer confidence that, yes, this company is legit. Mm-hmm. Yes, so this is very important. When you are actually starting the application, you be very careful that you're selecting, for every certification that you're actually requesting. So if it's an M and a W, there's a box that'll allow you to select both. Yeah. It's the same application. Yeah.
Check M and W if you're trying to get the M and the W. It's still $250, but you're doing the M and the W at the same time. It doesn't make sense to do the M and then come back later and do the W. You check both of them. It's one application. It's $250.
Yes. DBEs is free.
You can do both of them at the same
Oh
time.
yeah, you can do the same. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No. So there's a separate application for DBE.
Oh, okay.
So you can do DBE and ACDBE at the same time on the different application. No,
Yeah.
it's a total, that's why it was another class. That's why there's a separate class for DBE and ACDBE, because they have a few different rules, but no, it's not the same application. Any other questions?
I just have one. I actually started, I went into the website and I started the application, and I got stuck when it asked me to download all of the forms that you were requesting. So for each of those forms that they are requesting me, I should just put one letter, download one letter explaining why I don't have 5 years of tax returns, for example, for the company.
Yeah. So in response to each question.
Letter. People haven't had a different letter for each question.
Yeah.
Not one letter saying I don't have this, I don't have this.
Yeah.
It has to be a different letter for each question. So when you're using the flash drive, if it's 5 things you don't have, you should have 5 letters saying I don't have it because it's going to take you through each question, asking for each document. And I always tell people I do teach the online class, but I always tell people if you're on that online site and you have a question, go to the help, because there's that's a whole different software package, and the help on there is excellent. I tell people to definitely go to the help if you have a question, and download the handbook. There's a handbook of how to do the online application. It's about 12 pages, but it's excellent. And then, like I said, if you have questions, if you get stuck on the online application, just hit help. I think it's an email, but they respond very quickly.
Yeah, actually, I did know that.
Yeah,
They're very good.
they're very good in responding for the online application.
Is it easy to change in here since I started with Ivan Katan because it's the name that I have to do?
Anything you've done, you can go back and edit. Yeah. Until it's been submitted. After it's been.
Even though my license says Jose Ivan Katan, that would not be acceptable?
Your ID says your first name and middle name?
Yes.
Then it may be something that's. If it was me, you can kind of infer, what the issue is. Yeah, you're probably not going to run into. What I said earlier about changing it on the corporate document. It's just kind of going forward, so you don't run into this kind of issue. But it's probably not going to be an issue. Yeah.
It says Jose in my driver's license.
Okay.
It says Jose.
Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah. Yeah, should be okay. Any other questions?
I do, but I was going to tap on to show you how you access
Okay.
Okay.
Well, if I could just get everybody, if you're not staying for doing business with the city, which I hope everybody stays, because we have another presenter for doing business with the city, but if you're not staying, if you can fill out the evaluation, and we're going to cut it off, and then if there are any individual questions that you all have, we can, like if you have a question that's specifically to you that you want Ian or myself to answer, then we can answer those questions from there. And we'll start up at 3:15 for doing business with the city. And The second workshop is really good because he's gonna talk about like the difference between RFPs, RSQs, the target market, making sure that you, come to bid openings or, pre-bids and information like that. So I do recommend it if you have time to stay for the second workshop.
Sure.
The 51%. We have 3 people involved, 2 of us are parties. 51%, does that be 1 person, or that be shared by 2?
If it's the 51% by the